Hi there. My name is Michael Armis, and this is my critical assignment ethical leader presentation for KIN 505. Here we go. My career chosen for this ethical leader presentation is a head soccer coach at the collegiate Division 1 level. This is something I've been working at for some time now. After being coaching at the high school level now for the last 11 years, it is a dream of mine to coach at the collegiate level where there are higher quality athletes, a higher level of competition, and something that I could honestly focus on as a full-time job. So, what does the job description entail for a collegiate head soccer coach? There's a lot of components that go into coaching and managing a soccer program at the collegiate level. For example, that you have to deal with administrative overview of the entire program. That can mean anywhere from paperwork, keeping up with budgeting, right? Keeping in line with dates, accordances, right, with other administration. Some of the other things that we have to that a head soccer coach would be performing would be recruitment. Knowing exactly right what type of player that you're looking for. Is it a player that can fit into your system, right? And honestly, do they have the values that you are looking for in a player that you want to bring into your program, right? This is a huge investment, especially if you're talking about someone that you are looking to give a scholarship to, right? Trying to weigh out, is this somebody that you'd want to bring in over somebody else, right? A lot of these things can go into that, right? Some other the duties include scheduling of team activities, right? Getting in touch with your athletic director, scheduling practices, right? Field coordination, scheduling team dinners, right? Talking with social media, all those good things. Some more of the job duties that are included is planning out training sessions, right? You have to come up with yearly cycles, right? How are you going to do this? Are you going to develop your training sessions on a daily basis? Do you have them prepared on a weekly basis? Are you looking even more forward, right, into a monthly basis, or even you're planning a year ahead, right? Some of the other things, right? We talked about budget a little bit. Um, One of the other things a head coach has to keep track of is academic progress, checking in with players on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis. Sometimes freshmen, new recruits, have a hard time adjusting to the college lifestyle and the demands that it takes, right? Sometimes there are players that fall behind a little bit. So staying on top of the academic progress. The next thing that you have to do that is extremely important is compliance with the NCAA rules. Anything from eligibility to developing new rules that the NCAA came up with, and recruitment, how it is that you go about looking at players, speaking with players, what type of scholarships you are offering them. It is very important that you stay in compliance with those, or else your team or your program could actually be penalized or perhaps even fined. So some of the additional coaching duties that also are required in the coaching job is management of your coaching staff, making sure that everyone is working together cohesively, executing the desired tactics and techniques that you are looking for to develop in your program and to maintain in your program. Another thing that goes into it is personalities. Soccer is a very competitive, passionate sport, and every single coach has his own philosophy, and every single coach has their different approach in which they think the game should be played. Another duty is providing a spiritual direction, right? One way that we can do this, or that I would implement this into my program, would be developing team values, uh, trying to make up bonding time with one another, creating reflection time amongst the team, discussing scriptures. And the last thing that we have to make sure that we're doing is our continuing education, right? For some coaching licenses, you have to do continuing educational units to maintain your licenses. There's certifications that you can get, and there's also plenty of coaching clinics that you can attend to make sure you're staying fresh on the current coaching topics, right? And always trying to perfect your craft. So, one of the leadership strategies I would like to use as a college coach would be transformational leadership, right? Transformational leadership focuses on having individual relationships with each one of your players, creating goals for them, right? And helping them complete those goals. According to Gomez and Rezen, right? Doing this will result in good team performance and successful completion of these extraordinary goals. The next thing that transformational leadership focuses on is the organizational goals of the program, for example. Whereas other forms of leadership, such as servant leadership, focus on the follower and then the organization and then the leader himself last. So transformational leadership is a method that I would like to incorporate into my coaching strategies at this level. So one of the first ethical issues we're going to take a look at is essentially a player within your program has been questioning your philosophies, your style of play. The team is under pressure right now because they're not playing up to the standard that you're wanting them to play for, and the player begins essentially trying to divide the team into who is going to support the coach and who is going to disagree with him. The player then begins speaking out against you in front of the rest of the players and disrespecting you in front of your coaching staff. One of the ways I would like to tackle or use strategies to deal with this type of ethical situation is developing team core values. In a study performed by Wang and Straub on world-class coach Anson Dorrance, one of his biggest successes that he believes led to his team just having a positive environment and great outcomes was really developing team core values. Some of those things, right, we would discuss at the beginning of the season, and obviously as we're recruiting players, is what is it that I'm looking for in my team, and what is it that the team wants to have at its core, right? Is being on time at practice important? Making sure you're respecting coaches, making sure you're respecting the opponents, making sure that if you have an issue to take it up with the coach in the right moment, not in front of others, right? Not making it a team issue, but something that is rather personal. Also, with these team strategies, right, some of the dimensions that are involved in transformational leadership are the four dimensions. So, the first dimension that goes into transformational leadership is idealized influence, which is essentially the charismatic behaviors of the leader and elements of leadership that are attributed to the leader by their followers, right? So, how is it that you are interacting with your players? And in this situation, someone that you're dealing with that is obviously upset with you, right? Are you being positive about going about this? Or are you looking at it with a negative mindset? In a situation like this, we have to try and realize why is the player upset and what can a coach do to try and make the situation better or to get the best out of their player. The next thing is inspirational motivation. Um, so, in part of setting these team core values, uh, we want to have clear cut expectations that, yes, part of the team core values is that I do want my players on time at practice and I want to make sure that they're staying later to help pick up things, right? And I want to make sure that they understand the system that we are playing in. Those are my expectations for somebody that would be entering my program. Now, am I going to do this with enthusiasm? Absolutely. It is not something that you want to try and ask a player to do with a type of negative background to it. You want to be enthusiastic about it and make sure that you're creating a welcoming environment that players are actually wanting to stay at practice and learn more and become better soccer players under you. Continuing on from the four dimensions, I would also like to emphasize intellectual stimulation. So, soccer is what is presented in front of you. There's a lot of those components in other sports, but in soccer, it's one of those where there's no timeouts. There is one of those sports where you have to constantly be thinking at all times based off. There's no stopping in the middle of the game to change something. You literally have to adapt to whatever is being presented to you. So in that case, I would like to use intellectual stimulation as well. Whereas in this situation where a player feels that the tactics are not going the right way, for example, one of the things you want to ask is, do you fully understand how it is that we're trying to play, and do you understand what the opponent is trying to give you? Perhaps this player is the only one that's on the field that is playing out of system, and the rest of the players are trying to play according to the system the coach has set, and this one player is the only one that's creating a kink within that style of play. So one of the things I'd like to do is use intellectual stimulation, right, where I would challenge this type of player. What can you do differently in this type of situation when so and so player stands in front of you here, and you have option A or B or C? Which one is the best one in this type of situation, right? The next one is individualized consideration. So with this, is this type of player a player that's struggling, for example, to use his left foot? Um, can we create drills? Can I myself as a coach create a drill where perhaps maybe I stick with him after practice and help him improve on his left foot, whether it's passing, whether it's shooting, or just playing the ball into space? Whatever his goal may be, coach, I want to hit the striker quicker, right? Can I help him get there without addressing the rest of the team and really just pay attention to what he is trying to accomplish, right? So in a way, how this differs from transactional leadership, where I would expect the player that is struggling to want to stay after practice and say, coach, hey, I need this. Or maybe he doesn't ask me, coach, can I stay after practice? Maybe he does it on his own, right? Where in transactional leadership, I would be giving him a reward for staying afterwards to try and meet that goal, when it should be an expected outcome that, yes, you should be able to play the ball out through your left foot, and yes, you should be able to keep our style of play going with your left foot. So that's one way how this kind of differs from transformational leadership, where in transformational leadership there's not so much a uh, act of service and a reward, right? In transformational leadership, your service is almost practically like your reward. Whatever it is that you do, it should be expected that you are doing that, especially within a team setting like this. Is transformational leadership effective? The answer is yes, right? In a study by Gomez and Resend, transformational leadership is effective because of its ability to increase compatibility between athletes and coaches, right? So we're kind of just going back to that last slide, just talking about what is it that I can do to get the most out of you? How is it that you would like me to communicate with you as players, individualized players, right? Every single player personality has a different way that they would like to be spoken to, a different way that they would like to be coached. Um, the next thing that we're kind of examining here, right, is um, more. There's more satisfaction from participative management and less passive management. So, how does this kind of differ from transactional leadership, where in transactional leadership, there's more, some of the components, right? One of the things that it's big on is this type of laissez faire type of leadership, where there isn't really a type of leadership. It would kind of just be like a coach sitting back and not doing anything to correct a mistake, for example, right? So, with this goes back to Anson Dorrance's success. Is he was a very participative leader, in terms of he was constantly getting in with his players and correcting things that needed to be corrected, giving individualized players that attention that they needed instead of coaching on a whole basis, right? The next thing is displaying positive feedback. How is it that you're going about telling a player that they messed up? Sure, they might have had a bad pass, right? But are you telling them, hey, on the next pass, you're going to get it right? Hey, on the next pass, you're going to get it right. Hey, maybe next time you do this, instead of getting, being kind of negative with them and telling them you're not going to do it, right? Or what is that, right? Which would kind of be like negative feedback, right? The next thing is displaying personal respect. How is it that you're speaking to that player? What is the tone that you're using to communicate with that player if they did make a mistake, right? Generally, people don't want to be put down, especially in a team setting where players are competing for a spot on the starting 11 in this case, are you showing that player respect in the way that you're communicating with him? Are you putting him down, or are you picking him up in a moment where he needs to be picked up? So this is just another aspect of transformational leadership, and why I believe it would be effective coaching at the collegiate level. Here are some of the more of the issues that are faced as a coach at this level. So dealing with academic performance, right? We kind of talked about it at the beginning in terms of players having a hard time adjusting from maybe that high school level to the college level, right? But really in this transformational leadership strategy that we're trying to emphasize, right? Are we motivating players to perform better in that academic environment? Are you setting goals with them? Maybe they have a 3.0 and their goal is to maybe get to 3.2, right? Or 3.3, right? Can you help them get there by motivating them, right? By setting goals with them together. Maybe the goal is to really work on homework this week. Last week it was you worked on homework 3 hours a day. Maybe this week's goal is working on it, 3.5 hours, whatever it may be. The next thing, playing time. How is it that you're motivating your players, and this player in particular who has an issue with you, in their playing time? Right? Are you helping them? Are you trying to motivate them to actually compete with the teammates, or is it a type of player that's kind of sitting back and expects to have that playing time just handed over to them? Um, so we're dealing with that. The unsuccessful results. Are you giving up as a coach, or are you constantly motivating your players to do better and want to do better? And also, do you believe they're going to do better, right? Your message as a coach has got to be that you are behind your players and you believe that they can compete in any single game against any type of opponent that they're going to be facing. The next leadership strategy I would like to talk about is servant leadership. Borland, Kane, and Burton talk about servant leadership as uh, it is the leader's objective to be attentive to his or her followers' needs, helping them meet their goals, and really helping them attain their aspirations. In servant leadership, um, the follower is the primary concern, then it comes the organization, and then it is the leader himself. Whereas in transformational leadership, one of the comparisons is that the organization comes first, then comes the leader, then comes the follower. So servant leadership is pretty much serving others and putting yourself last when it comes to dealing with leading others. This is another type of technique that I would like to use in coaching, right? I would want my players to know that I am there for them. I am there to help them meet their goals and working with them every single day to try and help them meet those goals. Some of the characteristics that go into servant leadership is empowering and developing followers, showing humility, authenticity, interpersonal acceptance, providing direction, and stewardship. Right. So when we're talking about empowering and developing followers, uh, what a coach would really be trying to do is encouraging them to find strategies into solving problems from the get-go, right? Not really holding their hand, right? So when we're talking about a soccer player in this ethical issue that we've been discussing of somebody who is not following in your system that you're trying to play in, right? Are you holding their hand, trying to walk them through each situation, or are you encouraging them to try and solve it by themselves, right? If playing, uh, for example, if a player steps up, how are you going to get out of this situation to get the ball from one side to the other, right? Another thing, um, when displaying authenticity, right? Are you expressing how it is that you feel and staying true to yourself when you're telling this player who's somewhat creating problems for you in your program? Are you staying true to yourself and letting them know what exactly it is that it means to you that they are doing to your program? How important is it that they are to your program? How important is the program to yourself, right? This is your dream job that you are going out for, that you are trying to create a better program, trying to create a successful program in. The next thing, right? Providing direction. Uh, are you customizing this exact direction based off of this exact individual that you're dealing with here, right? Sometimes coaches like to generalize directions and say, hey, I need the group of you guys to come and do this, right? Where in turns you can say, hey, so and so, I need you to actually do this, and this is your exact direction. I want you to pass to this exact teammate of yours when you are in this exact situation. And the next thing is showing stewardship. Uh, the entire program that you are trying to run is your responsibility. You are the head coach. You are in charge of facilitating the development and the success of the program. So when you're talking about servant leadership and trying to solve this ethical situation that you're in with this player, it is your job to show them and remind them that it is your responsibility to make sure that the program is successful and it falls on no one else's shoulders but yourself as the head coach. Some extra strategies, right, when dealing with this player is contacting the player and making sure it's in a private setting, making sure there's individualized consideration, right? So one of those things is making sure you're doing it in private and not really addressing this in front of the rest of the team, because it's your situation as the head coach to kind of put an end to this and make sure that it doesn't spread to the rest of the team. Some of the things that you want to talk about while you're meeting with the player and taking into consideration is, are you helping the athlete grow as a person and as an athlete? The game is a platform in which you can learn many life lessons and take those on with you through life. The game teaches us many things like that. Some servant qualities that you can use in contacting the player is speaking to the player with respect, right? It's a mutual ground where both parties can communicate and not putting the player down when he actually comes to see you, knowing that he has an issue with what's going on. And also, your job as the head coach is being able to display forgiveness. You are the adult and making sure that when you are listening to the situation that you are forgiving, and making sure that if you are not forgiving, nothing's really going to be solved and you won't be able to move on. You as the adult need to be the bigger person and move on and be able to display that type of forgiveness. According to Rose in 2017, servant leadership has shown to increase employee engagement, reduce turnover, and attainment of goals. Now, this translates to the field by developing trust with your players and being able to work through those rough patches that you might go through, like the ethical case that was presented just a little while ago. By using servant leadership, you're able to overcome the difficulties, whatever it is that you're losing games, not able to communicate with the player, not able to get your point across. And honestly, it's trying to build that connection with your followers. Servant leadership is a people centered approach, and when applying that to your soccer team, it turns into a player centered approach for coaching. When discussing our faith in situations like this, I like going back and thinking about when we're building our team core values, how important is our faith to the team? And most importantly, how important is it to me as a person, as a coach, as a leader in my role in leading others down the right path? So, in a journal presented by Buchanan, he kind of mentioned that leadership skills, management skills, and basically our faith, when those are intertwined, that influences each other in practice of these skills. So putting all these together in a box pretty much and utilizing them every single day, whether it be practice, whether it be team bonding, whether it be our games in a pregame talk, all these can influence each other and they bring about a better understanding of what it is that our faith means to us. One of the quotes that I think about when sometimes dealing with situations like this or in the ethical case that we're examining is this psalm the verse from Psalm is that I will instruct you and teach you in the way that you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. And this really stuck out to me just thinking about when you get in these tough situations with players and you are just trying to convey the message that I am here to look out for you and that I want the best for you. As a coach, you want the best for your players and you want to see them succeed. And through God and our faith, we can make sure that all those combined, we can do that. The last course of action that you want to take as a coach is having to go to your athletic director and approach them with the situation you have on hand. On one half, it almost looks bad because you're a coach and now you're having to resort to somebody else to kind of decide what's going to happen. But the proper thing to do is let administration know of the situation that you're dealing with. So part of that is empowering and developing, right? And that is letting them be aware of the situation that is at hand, showing them stewardness and really just trying to get their backing, and knowing that they are behind you in case anything was to come up of complaints or maybe some type of lawsuit can be filed against you, but really just making sure that you have the administration behind you in your decision making and coming to a conclusive decision together with everybody that is a part of the program and that is a part of the athletic program at the college, not just your coaching staff. The second ethical issue we're going to take a look at is you as a head coach are dealing with a situation with your strength and conditioning coach that is overseeing the training program of your team. You begin to not agree on the training principles in which he is training your team. You begin to feel that the volume and the exercises don't really match up with what you're trying to look for in your team. And you notice that not only are your results kind of reflecting something, but you feel that the performance of the team might have to do something with them working in the weight room at a specific intensity. Some strategies in dealing with this ethical situation that we're looking at now is first we need to contact the strength and conditioning coach, right? Make sure that we're doing this in private and making sure that you're in a setting where both parties are comfortable. Now, if we were using transformational skills, making sure that you're showing individualized consideration for the coach, which at the same time reflects your team. So part of that is understanding that the strength and conditioning coach, he has goals set for you in the weight room and has a master plan for you that's over a period of time, where at the same time you have goals that you want to achieve out on the field during games and individualized performances. So the strength and conditioning coach wants you to win as much as you want to win, and just being able to work with him to make sure that that happens as well too. If we were using servant leadership skills, right, we want to make sure that we're being authentic when you're sitting down and having this type of conversation with him about your concerns, right? So the authenticity that goes into it is really letting him know what it is about what's going on that is bothering you, not so much keeping things bottled up, but by being authentic and saying, hey, I think my players are working too hard, I think they're pressing too much weight right now, and by the time we get up to the field they're exhausted. By the time we get to Saturday or Sunday's game, they're completely just drained and we're not performing well, right? Making sure that you are just putting everything out there and letting him know that you trust him. um, Another part of being displaying those types of servant leadership skills is showing humility, right? In doing so, you are displaying to the strength and conditioning coach that you are fully behind him, right? So, what other ways can you support him? Ask him. Maybe he has a way of you wanting to motivate the players before they get in there, or making sure that the players are buying into his program that he is trying to implement with you and the success of your team. And the last part I want to kind of touch on is stewardship, right? Letting the coach know that essentially the success of the program is determined by him. You, as the coach, oversee all of that. And if you feel that something could possibly be affecting it in a detrimental way, it is your job to make sure that that is no longer a part of the program, or you need to move on and correct something so that the program continues to be successful or to move in that direction of success. As a head coach at the collegiate level, I would want to use transformational leadership skills to help my team accomplish their goals and honestly build an individual relationship with each one of my players. At a coach at that level, that is what I want, is to have that type of relationship where I can communicate with each one of my players on an individual platform and be able to get to know them, and so that they understand me and we understand each other. And in doing so, hopefully will result in a good team performance. At the same time, I want to use servant leadership to attain those goals on and off the field. And most importantly, build trust with my players. Know that I have their back and that they have mine, and that they are the person that I want on the field in that position at that exact moment in time. I want to build trust with my fellow coaches. I want them to know that I trust them with the tactics and the training sessions that they will be conducting while I am supervising all practices. My name is Michael Armas, and this has been my presentation on ethical leadership. Thank you very much.